I have one video I made 8 years ago that is by far the video that gets the most views. Got about 3 million views. My business brought in over $4 million. I would venture to say that that one video has brought in at least half of those sales, right? It's wild. Even today, it's 500 views per day, which like isn't a crazy amount, but I made it 8 years ago. You're not gonna get that on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or whatever. The longevity is unbelievable because when you do it right, it works. I mean, plain and simple, when you do it right, it works. And so like, why do I even bother? Like, I'm just gonna sit back, relax, and collect the money from this video 8 years ago.
Hello, and welcome to the Art of Selling Online Courses. We are here to share winning strategies and secret hacks from top performers in the online course industry. My name's John Ainsworth. Today's guest is Jacques Hopkins. Now, Jacques is the creator of Piano in 21 Days, which is an online course that has served over 10,000 students and generated over $4 million in revenue. And we have had previous episodes where Jacques has come on and talked about that in detail. So if you want to hear those, go and search back through the podcast history. Now, he also hosts the Online Course Show, and he helps creators to build ethical evergreen systems, clarifying offers, optimizing funnels, and publishing content that compounds. He draws in over a decade in the trenches, and he shares practical frameworks on that. And I've been on that podcast as well, which is great. That came out just a couple of weeks ago from when we were recording this. So go and check out the Online Course Show as well. Now, today we're going to start by talking about webinars. And this is something that I'm a big fan of, but I don't teach as much. I haven't done as many episodes about. So we're going to see what comes up and how we're going to Jacques' approach to this is during the episode today. So Jacques, welcome to the show.
What's up, John Ainsworth? What an honor to be on the podcast once again. The Art of Selling Online Courses. Big fan. Big fan.
Thanks,
I
man.
guess the Online Course Show is probably taken already, though, huh? I mean, that's a good name, too.
I was like, what can I buy? Can I get the online? No, can't have that. What else?
That's like when I went to got the idea for Piano in 21 Days. You know, the first idea was Piano in 30 Days, but that was taken. I was like, oh, okay, what's another cool number, right? Because I was thinking kind of like in a month, and then it's like, well, 3 weeks is cool too, right? 21 days to form a habit. You've heard that before, probably. But yeah, Piano in 30 Days was taken. I think mine's been more successful at this point. That was a long time ago. Sorry, I know I'm getting a tangent already. John, it's an honor to be here. Thanks.
All good. I went to buy at one point, there was a TV show, I don't know if you remember it, called Pimp My Ride. And I decided I wanted to do Pimp My Funnel. And I went to buy pimpmyfunnel.com, and I found that Russell Brunson had already bought it and set it up as a redirect to a landing page for something he was doing. And I was like, you bastard. So I had to buy pimpyourfunnel.com. And sometimes when I tell people that link, they're like, that was pimpmyfunnel.com. And no, don't go there.
That's amazing.
I have to go to Pimp Your Funnel.
I didn't, I knew you've told me about that funnel probably on my podcast, and I didn't realize it was not even my either, right? Because that's brilliant, right? I definitely remember that show.
All right, so webinars, let's get into this. I am a massive fan of webinars. And when I first started this business, I thought that what I was going to do was teach people how to build webinars and build webinars for people. And that was going to be the approach. And I found a number of times that people wouldn't manage to build their webinar, or they'd do a half-assed job with it. And I feel like with a webinar, you need to do I think at least you need to do a good job with it. And it was easier for people to do a decent job with sales pages and email marketing. And so that's kind of why I went down that approach. And we still build them for clients. We still use them. They're still fantastically successful. I think they're probably, in a lot of ways, the best funnel that you can have. It depends on the price point of what you're selling, what have you. What's been your experience with it? Because you teach people to build webinars as part of the kind of the sales funnel. Have you found issues with this? And let's just start with that. Have you found some of those same issues that I talked about when you've taught people to do this?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Can I tell you how I got into webinars? Can we start there?
Yeah, right.
Backstory. So my first Evergreen, and when we're talking, you're saying webinars, I'm assuming you're talking like Evergreen webinar, not live webinar, or are you talking about both?
Well, both. We do both. Yeah, for people.
Yeah. Okay. So the first funnel that ever worked for me was an Evergreen product launch formula funnel, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're familiar with what, like the pre-launch video content. you're hyping up the launch, and then for me, when I first launched it, I was hyping up the availability of the offer, and then the offer would go away. We've since switched that to just a discount, and the full price offer is available all the time. But it was 2016. I implemented that offer for my piano course, Piano in 21 Days. I said offer, I meant type of funnel, and not a webinar. And a couple years later, I got this accountability partner. We would meet every week. He had a course in a completely different niche, and it was actually the first person I ever coached. And he started doing well. He implemented the product launch formula funnel, and then he started learning about webinars. Right. And you'll never guess how he learned about webinars. It was through Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. And I waited a long time to read that book because I didn't understand what that book was about. I read .com Secrets in 2016. And that's when I first signed up for ClickFunnels. I don't use that anymore. But he read Expert Secrets, and come to find out, that book could just be called How to Write a Webinar That Sells Your Online Course. I mean, that's literally what that book is about. So he implemented a webinar, a funnel, and it did really well for him. And we're meeting every week, right? His business is doing even better than mine, even though, he started out, I was coaching him. And so I was like, all right, fine. I guess I got to try this webinar thing. Right. But I didn't want to, like when something's working, you don't, and you think it could be even better, but you don't want to mess up what's already working. Right. So instead of just like creating a webinar funnel, what I did was I created a webinar and then put it at the beginning of my already working funnel. Right. And so for the way that I did it, it actually solved a really big problem in the funnel that I had, which was for the first 7 days of the funnel, people didn't have the ability to buy from me. Right. And it was at the time the offer was $300 to $500 for a piano course. That is on the higher side, and so for most people it does take that amount of time. But there are, this, like sometimes people are just hot to try it. It's a small percentage of people, but sometimes people are just ready at the beginning. And so by injecting the webinar at the beginning of that funnel, it gave people the opportunity to buy for the first time. And so I kept my opt-in the same as my free workbook. They'd opt in and on the thank you page, they could download the workbook. There's a little video that says step 1, download the workbook, but step 2, check out my workshop. And it's just an on-demand workshop. And so that's when people started buying right away because they could buy at the end of the webinar for the first couple of days of the funnel. So I know I'm not truly answering your question yet, but that's kind of my backstory. And so that actually improved overall conversions for my funnel. And I've been running basically the same webinar ever since for the past like 6-7 years as part of my funnel. Okay. So it worked for my accountability partner, Nate. It worked for me. Then I started showing other people how to do it. And with webinars, you mentioned this, they're hard and it's not going to work unless you do an amazing job with it. Right. And so
do you think that? That's my instinct with it. I've never tried to do a bad job to see does it definitely not work, but I feel like it's got to be good. Otherwise, what's the point with it?
Yeah. So this is what I always tell my clients is, there are multiple formulas for webinars. The gold standard is Russell Brunson's perfect webinar, but there are other ones, and in his approach, you've got like the epiphany bridge story and the 3 secrets, and we can break that down if you want to. But ultimately, and I teach kind of that main framework. But ultimately, when I'm reviewing somebody's webinar, I'm not looking for, do you have exactly 3 secrets, right? Do you have one internal one? Do you have one external one? Do you have one, what's the other one, channel one?
Vehicle.
Or vehicle, or like, is your epiphany bridge story exactly 5.5 minutes, right? I'm not looking for any of that. What I'm looking for is, by the time I get to the offer, have you made me say yes to 2 things? The first one is, can I do this? Can I do this? Right? Because if you haven't made me believe I can do this thing, then you're never going to make the sale, right? So I always bring it back to the piano example. A lot of people will start my webinar. They'll opt into my freebie, whatever, enter my funnel. They want to play piano, but they still don't know if they can do it, right? My friend Nate, that I've talked about, my accountability partner, he taught people to grow and sell microgreens and make like 6 figures a year. Microgreens are these baby versions of plants that are like 40 times more nutritious than the full-grown version. Chefs put them on garnishes. You can put them on smoothies. If you don't, by the time you get to the offer, if you don't believe that you can grow them and then sell them and actually make six figures doing that, then you're never going to make the sale. So that's the first thing. We've got to convince them that they can do it, right? And secondly, we've got to convince them that this is the perfect way for them to be able to do it, right? because it's one thing for me to convince them that they can learn piano with all these paradigm shifts, breaking down false beliefs. But if they take that away, they take that new confidence away and then go get a weekly piano teacher, then I haven't done my full job. I've got to also convince them that I'm the right guy and my program is the perfect way for them to be able to do it. So ultimately, when I'm reviewing a webinar, I'm putting myself in the shoes of somebody viewing it. And am I getting a yes to those two questions? Right. And if I'm not, then I got to figure out why and provide feedback to the client.
How do you find it in terms of, do you find people struggle with doing that? Do you find people are like,
okay,
they don't
so do you want me to answer the question
don't...
this time, or do you want me to like go on another tangent?
And I want at least 3 more tangents and then maybe kind of weave it in, through a story.
Okay. It's very challenging. The most difficult thing I ask people to do is to make a webinar. And that's why we try to break it down. Like, let's start with the offer first, right? Don't try to build your offer the same time you're building your webinar. Start with the offer. Okay. Next, let's build out your list of false beliefs, your objections, right? What are all the possible objections somebody has to succeeding in your niche or to buying your course? Let's list them all out. Basically, let's pick like the top 3 and come up with shifts, paradigm shifts around those 3, right? So we just kind of take it a piece at a time. Your epiphany bridge story, that's really important because we want to position ourselves as the guide of their story, not the hero of their story, right? And that's where the epiphany bridge story comes in. And then you just kind of piece it all together. But almost every time people are like, man, that is just so much more work than I expected it to be, So absolutely, it's very, very challenging. And that's one of the big things that we help our clients with is reviewing it. Like we teach them how to do it, but it's extremely rare that somebody nails it on the first time. Extremely rare. And that's why that's why I have a coaching program, is because me and my team will look and give feedback and we'll tell them when we think it's good enough. But yes, very, very challenging. Did I answer your question this time?
Yeah, definitely. Why do you think, so if it's so challenging to get them to do it, why do you still think it's worth sticking with that as the one? Is it because it's the one that's worked the best for you? Is it because you think, you know what, out of everything you could do, this is the one that you really should do? Is it, because you've been teaching it for ages and you can't be asked to change? Like, what's what's the reason,
Yeah, because when you do it right, it works. I mean, plain and simple, when you do it right, it works. And we've got to have some sort of selling mechanism. And people are going to buy from people they trust, that they spend some time with. And if you can get them to show up to the webinar, because that's half the battle too, if you can get them to show up and then you do a bang up job with the webinar, then they're going to spend that time with you and you're going to go through those paradigm shifts and they're going to have the confidence that I can do this and and then this program is the perfect way for me to do this. When done well, which is so hard to do, when done well, it can work amazingly well.
Yeah, I think the fact that you've got an hour with someone, like an hour of like building rapport, or 45 minutes or however long your webinar is, right? Building rapport, making the case for your argument and doing it in an entertaining way that keeps them engaged and getting them to believe they can do it and getting them to believe that your approach is the right way and is the one that's going to work best for them. All of that is like, you don't have that on a sales page. Like, you don't guaranteed have that in the webinar. They might drop out partway through. They might be kind of only half listening, what have you. But like, if you do, it's like, that's a lot of time with someone to like really make your point, to really get that across. And I think that's a big part of the reason why it works. And I recommend it for people, particularly if they're selling something maybe above $300, definitely above $500.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, we're mostly helping people to sell courses that are from $79 to $500. Like, that's the majority of our clients. And a lot of them in hobby space, learn piano, learn guitar, whatever, or spirituality, or learn a language, that kind of thing, where it isn't tend to be as expensive. But we have clients where like they're selling something for $2,000-$3,000 and we're like, let's do a webinar,
100%. I mean, I'm the same way. Like, I would say most of my clients are above like the $300 price point, which is kind of where I would draw the line. Like, it's a little bit of a gray area, but if you have a $79 course, don't do a webinar. It's overkill. But you also mentioned the 1 hour mark, and there's no hard and fast rule on the time. And that's one of the top questions I get is like, how long should it be? Well, as long as it needs to be and no longer, right? It actually, what I found is way harder. I mean, a webinar is hard in and of itself, but it's way harder to make an effective short webinar than an effective long webinar. Okay. My piano webinar is actually 2 hours. And it works. So I don't try to shorten it, but I do wish it were shorter. I've had the most successful short webinar I've seen is like 35 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and that does really, really well. But do you know Spencer Russell? Have you had him on the podcast?
No, I don't think so.
He's one of the most successful course creators I've ever come across. He's been on my podcast probably 3 times. He would be a fantastic guest for your
Okay.
podcast. He was a client of mine when he came to me a few years ago. He didn't have a webinar funnel. His funnel was like a quiz funnel, and
Mm-hmm.
like people would go through the quiz, and he had 3 different courses, and the result of your quiz just pointed you to which of the 3 courses you needed to take. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, Spencer, there's no value here, right? There's
Yeah.
nothing, and it wasn't converting, He teaches toddlers to read. That's his brand, Toddlers Can Read. So, I mean, he's literally teaching like 2 and 3-year-olds how to read, which is amazing. But I mean, you look him up, he's over 2 million followers on like Instagram alone, right? Across all the
Mm.
platforms, he's like over 5 or 6 million. He was just on Fox News the other day. He's wildly successful. But he implemented a webinar funnel, and his was only 35 minutes. And he got the job done. By the time you got to the offer, you're like, yes, I can do this. I can help my kid do this in his case. And
Mm-hmm.
and this program is the perfect way for me to do it. And he still has that 35-minute webinar and works amazingly well, like 6 figures a month well.
Now, if somebody is then thinking, well, how am I driving traffic into this webinar? What's your big picture take on that? Like, what do you think is the best approach for online course creators to be using around traffic?
So, I mean, regardless of webinar, right? I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
question is, how do we drive traffic to our whatever kind of funnel it is,
Yeah.
basically, right? In general, I would say YouTube. I mean, I'm a big fan of organic strategies, especially when you're starting out. Like, try to get, at least 5 figures a month in sales from just organic before you even think about doing ads. And then if you're going to do organic, for most people, I still think YouTube is the best way to go.
So I find
Short,
that, right? And I didn't find that most of our clients were on YouTube whenever I started 8 years ago or something, right? But nowadays, nearly all of our clients, YouTube is their main platform. Now, some it's Instagram, but that
yeah.
it doesn't convert as well to course sales in terms of you need a lot more followers on Instagram to get the same revenue that you would from long form views on YouTube. I got my theories about why that is. Why do you think YouTube is the one?
Well, there's a few reasons. I mean, one, it's wildly popular. There's a lot of users there. But if we're comparing it to other platforms, it's like the sweet spot of the amount of time you can spend with somebody too, right? So if you compare to Instagram, you would have to watch a lot of 30-second videos to spend enough time with somebody to really build trust and want to buy something from them, right? So with Piano in 21 Days, that's always been my top traffic source is my YouTube channel. I don't really know how many, like on average, how many of my videos people are watching before they buy or before they enter my funnel. But I have a theory, it's several, right? They're not just watching one video and then jumping over for the most part. I'm sure some people do. But if you watch 3 videos on Instagram and then jump over to my funnel, well, you've only spent a couple minutes with me, and so you're not as invested. But if you watch 3 YouTube videos, then you're way more invested and way more trust has built up, and so that's why it converts better, right? But just I think the data is there that it just works really well for course creators. I mean, you know that in your field, I know that. It's just a phenomenal match because people are looking for solutions on a video-based platform, and those same type of person are probably a good fit to have a video-based solution in the form of an online course.
It's one of the reasons why I think webinars work well as a sales mechanism, because you are showing a video to people, and the kind of people who want to buy video courses are the same kind of people who'd be more likely to watch a video about whether to buy it or not rather than read a sales page. I'm not saying it's the only reason, but it's like I think that's one of the reasons that it kind of fits particularly for online courses, and what I think YouTube does as well, like you say. Like I don't know anybody where Twitter is their main, source of leads. I know one person who's done really well with TikTok. One. And I'm like, I can't recommend it to anybody, particularly spending a lot of time on building up your TikTok following when I've only got one person who as the example for it. Like maybe there's real benefits to it, but I've seen a lot of people who've got big followings on YouTube and they start doing TikTok and they build up a big following and they just don't make any sales from it. Like And by not making any sales, I mean they might have 1 million followers and make 10 sales, you know,
Yeah.
in a whatever 3-6 month period, something like that. Like it's almost was a complete waste of time. Do you recommend people to focus on discovery-based videos or search-based videos, or a mixture of them? Do you find that makes a difference as to how well it kind of converts from the audience over to people who want to buy courses?
Yeah, I think a mixture. I think a mixture is definitely good. Search has not gone away completely. When I started my YouTube channel in 2013, it was all about search. Right, we were loading keywords into titles, and that was the name of the game. And then eventually, with the algorithm, I mean, there was no feed in 2013, but now you open a YouTube app, there's a feed, right? The algorithm is serving you stuff. That's not how it used to be. So then that became extremely important. But people do still search on YouTube, just it's not the only way people find you. So it is good to potentially do both, but it depends on if people are actively searching for your stuff, right? Mine's easy because people are always searching for how to play piano, but sometimes you're in a niche where people don't necessarily know they need it, and you need it to just like pop up in front of them in their feed, you know? So a combination. And sometimes we want to make videos that are more geared for like our subscribers, and just like build up that the people that are already subscribed to us, build up that community and whatnot. And those are the types of videos where your call to action would probably be like leave a comment below or something like that. Whereas other videos you want to make are more discoverable videos where we want it to the algorithm to really catch on to it and feed it to more people, in an effort to get more subscribers and get more people to our website. Do you recommend a mix of both too?
You know what? I do not consider myself to be a traffic expert in any way. I only work with people who've already got the traffic side of stuff figured out.
That's a cop out, John.
I don't recommend shit because I don't know the answer. I'm hoping to find out the answer from you.
Yeah, but look, you have a YouTube channel, right?
I do.
How many subs do you have?
1,500, something like that.
How many? Sorry,
about 1,500.
Great. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. That works. That works well. But so like you're doing something right? Or do you have someone in your team that just handles it for you?
So we focus mostly we've focused on discovery. I don't know that we've done an amazing job. We do an okay job, you know, but it's definitely not amazing. I spent a while learning and didn't find and you know, studied thumbnails and titles and made loads of changes, and it didn't seem to make a massive difference. So kind of moved over to different tactics. For me, what has worked, and I really want to hear your opinion on this, is the past. Now, most of the videos on YouTube are the podcast episodes, and a lot of people, if they want to hear them, will go and watch them on YouTube. But that doesn't mean that's how they discovered it. It's a more middle of funnel tactic, right? Rather than being kind of top of funnel. I think that's the place with YouTube where we haven't done as well. Now, you have a podcast. You put the podcast up on YouTube as well. How do you feel about podcasts? Why do you recommend YouTube versus a podcast to your clients?
Because with YouTube, you have that opportunity to, like, for lack of a better word, go viral. It's really hard for a podcast episode to go viral.
Yeah. That's my kind of experience with it. Is like podcasts are fantastic for building trust. You spend more time with someone who listens to your podcast than you do with a YouTube viewer, because people will just listen. They'll binge it. People message me and are like, I've listened to every episode twice. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to make more so you don't have to do that, you know. But they're trickier to find. You don't have that top of funnel discovery kind of element to it.
Exactly. I mean, there's a little bit of that, but nowhere near something like YouTube. Right. So yeah, starting a podcast 8 years ago is one of the best things I've ever done in my business. So I'm not ragging on podcasts, but now we record the video too, and we put them on YouTube. And you know, none of those do particularly well. Like if one of those gets 1,000 views, we're happy, you know, but they can be discoverable. I had an episode a few months ago. Do you know who Ali Abdaal is?
Yeah.
Big YouTuber, right? 7 million subscribers, something like that. I had a podcast interview that he commented on, and he was like, he said something like sick episode, right? That's all he said.
That sounds like Ali, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I saw that comment come through my email. I'm like, wait a second, this can't actually be Ali Abdaal.
This is someone else who's just put that name, yeah.
Yeah, and exactly, because I click on it and then click on it again to get to his profile, and it was the real deal. It was the 7 million subscriber Ali Abdaal. It was the real guy. And I was like freaking out because he commented on one of my videos. So I think it just got served to him in his algorithm. And I've gotten plenty of comments like that under those videos where people are like, wow, I just, this video just came across my feed, now I'm subscribing or whatever. Now that's more common on my non-interview based videos on YouTube. The algorithm is so funny. Let me tell you about this video. I made a video at the very end of last year because I was about to relaunch my beginner program called Genesis, and I made a video called if I were starting an online course business in 2025, here's what I would do. Right. And, I spent a bunch of time on the thumbnail, the title, the hook. I wanted this to be an amazing video. I'm like, this is going to really take off. I know the YouTube algorithm, it's going to do really well. And the timing is right too. Like, let's start it in the new year. And the video didn't do very well until a couple of months ago. The algorithm started taking it off a couple of months ago, 7 months later. And now, it's my top watched video on my channel day to day, and it's bringing in all kinds of new leads from a video I made almost a year ago now. That type of thing I don't get. Like, why did it take 7 months for it to start? Like, you look at the analytics, it's like flat, and starts to take off. And it's still doing well today.
And do you post those videos on the same channel as your podcast episodes?
Yeah. So I have one channel for Piano in 21 Days, and then I have one channel for the Online Course Guy. For the Online Course Guy, I post my podcast interviews as well as one-off videos like that. The last one we did was one of those tier list videos. I've been wanting to do that for a while. Tier list for top course platforms, top 20 course platforms ranking from S tier down to F tier.
I need to find out where I've seen a load of those in the fitness space, fitness videos. Yeah. I need to find out when did S become what does it stand for? When did it come in? Because I've seen them 100 times. I've never known what the fuck the S is. I know it's the best. I should ask ChatGPT.
It stands. My understanding is super.
Okay,
I could be wrong there. Yeah. But yeah, I've watched protein powders ranked from S tier to F tier. So finally did the course platform.
It originated according to the Google AI overview. So take this with a pinch of salt, people. It stands for Special, Super, or Superior. Represents the highest possible rank, rooted in Japanese grading, where an S rank signifies excellence beyond A, and originated from Japanese video games and academia. So that may or may not be true.
Yes. Okay, wait. So I just thought of something, John. We were comparing YouTube to some other platforms. The other great thing about YouTube is the longevity. I mean, that's probably number one is, I'll go back to Piano in 21 Days. I have one video I made 8 years ago that is by far, even today, the video on my YouTube channel for Piano in 21 Days that gets the most views is this video I made 8 years ago. It's got about 3 million views. And I mean, my business, Piano in 21 Days, it's brought in over $4 million. Without that video, I need to run the math on this because I would venture to say that one video has brought in at least half of those sales, right? It's wild. I really need to figure out that because, even today, that's the top source of traffic and income is people coming from that video. I do track the analytics of which YouTube video somebody came from to opt in and then ultimately buy. I just haven't aggregated that data to know truly how much the sales were worth. But what I'm saying is 8 years ago, I made that video. Even today, it gets 500 views. I was just looking at it yesterday. It gets 500 views per day, which isn't a crazy amount, but I made it 8 years ago. You're not going to get that on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or whatever. The longevity is unbelievable.
So what's your approach now? Because I saw you recommend people to do one YouTube video per week. Do you think most people can manage, most course creators can manage that? Do you think that's a realistic kind of schedule?
With the right systems in place, yeah. Right. My favorite quote, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So it's one thing to say, and that's from the book Atomic Habits, all-time favorite quote. It's one thing to say, I'm going to post a video every week. It's another thing to set up the systems to actually do that, right? Because if you just have this goal without the systems, you're not going to hit it. If you do it once a week, I mean, that's just gold. If you can do it at a high quality, right? The number one most important thing is your thumbnail. Next is your title. Next is the first 5 seconds with your hook. And then next is just like audience retention, audience retention, audience retention throughout the whole video. If you can do all those things well at a once a week cadence, I mean, that's a gold mine, absolute gold mine. I just don't see many people doing that and sticking with it. I haven't. I wish I would have.
Do you
And that's part of
recommend?
the problem too with like that video I made 8 years ago. It's like I've tried and I can't get anything anywhere near as successful. And so like, why do I even bother? Like I'm just gonna sit back, relax, and collect the money from this video 8 years ago, which is a terrible attitude because like I made a video a few years ago about how to play if you have small hands, and there's really the thumbnail is just me like with my arms out like this, and my graphic designer made my hands like a third the size, so it's like a
Mhm.
really compelling thumbnail. Well, that actually started taking off in the past like year, right? You just never know really what's going to do well, or when it's going to do well. So yeah, what were you going to say? I think I cut you off.
I don't know, but what are the systems that you think can help someone to do that, to post once a week? Script writing's got to be a lot of it, right?
Yes. I mean, it starts with ideation, right?
Mhm.
If you can't consistently come up with topic for 52 weeks of the year, then that's a problem. So, um, we have several ways we teach people to just ideate and have a running list going of potential topics. So when they have the right energy and mindset to script it out, or just like, when I say when I think the word script, I think like we're writing down every last word, and that's not necessary either unless you want to do that. Sometimes, I have a teleprompter on the camera I'm looking at right now, and sometimes I will do that if I just want every word dialed in.
Mhm.
That's not always necessary. But if you don't have a good list of topics that will work, then it's hard to script something out and then go to the next stage and go to the next stage. So it starts with ideation. And there's a lot of ways to do that. But I keep a running list for both of my businesses of potential ideas. And then scripting it out. I don't personally like to like script out and record on the same days. I
Mhm.
kind of separate those out. That works. That part of the system works well for me. I just really kind of need to be on when I'm ready to record. I'm just at a totally different mindset when I'm like being all nerdy and like scripting out and coming up with ideas versus being ready to be on camera. Right. So those are some of the things. But like another thing that I do that I think is important is usually we'll create the thumbnail
Mhm.
before we create the video.
Yeah.
And if we can't nail the thumbnail, then we don't move forward with the video. So we start there. I have a graphic designer that's like 5 hours a week on my team who's been with me for a long time. And so like sending him the ideas, creating the thumbnails, right? If you're creating all the thumbnails yourself, it's not ideal unless you are a graphic designer, because it takes time and you're probably not going to do it very well. So just like having that system for your thumbnail, for coming up with titles, for ideation, for scripting, whether that's certain days of the week or blocking off your calendar, because getting a high quality YouTube video out every week requires a lot. It's not just something you're gonna wing it and succeed with. So at a high level, those are some of the systems.
Nice. And you said you don't always manage to do that yourself, though?
No, John, I wish, YouTube is so powerful. It's so powerful. The platform that I have been consistent with the most is my podcast,
Mhm.
the online course show. And that's amazing. But and I wouldn't change that. It just doesn't have the opportunity for any of those episodes to just like go wildly crazy with the algorithm. Right.
Mm.
And that's the power of YouTube, is that you don't usually know which one it's going to happen to, but it can happen at any time. So that's why I love the once a week thing, because if you do it well, 52 weeks out of the year, then some of those are going to really pop, you
Mm.
know? Um, so no, I've spent that consistency on the podcast. I'm trying to get more and more consistent with the OCG Online Course Guy YouTube channel, and then Piano in 21 Days. It's hard to run two businesses, right? It's hard to be in two channels. I haven't
Yeah.
actually made a video on that channel in a couple of years
Right.
because I like talking about the business stuff more, and because like it does well.
Mm.
It does well even today without posting new videos, but it would just do so much better if I posted once a week.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, you've got to think about, well, what makes your life the life you want to have as well. It's not just
Yeah.
about how do you get the maximum amount of money out of business, right? It's like the whole point of starting an online business was to get the life that you wanted, or at least it was for like 99% of people that I know. And then somewhere along the way, it's possible to get caught up in like, oh yeah, but I should do this thing because of money. And it's like, well, have you already got enough of that? Because in which case, you don't have to do shit, do whatever you like.
That's a great point. It's real stuff here, John. I'm glad you brought that up. But it's all, I mean, it's not just money, it's impact too, right? Like people are genuinely learning piano that like weren't learning through other methods, because I teach piano so much differently than other people. And so it's just like that means everything to me when I get a message from somebody. It's like I was ready to give up, and I came across the way that you teach, and I'm like, I'm actually playing piano and enjoying it and impressing my wife or whatever. And so yeah, I've done well with it. But what I'm saying is I could have made more money, sure, and I could have impacted more people too, which is really, really cool.
Well, I'm sure you've impacted a lot of people through the online course show and the online course guy as well, so don't discount that. So saying that, if someone's been listening to this and is like, oh, I want to check out some of what Jacques doing, and maybe like, because we don't work with people when they're total beginners, right? When they're just getting started, but you do. Like that's something that you help people to kind of get going from scratch, right? I remember that correctly.
Yeah. I forgot you don't work with beginners. That you're missing out on working with some amazing people, John.
Well, absolutely. It's just not the skill. Like I've just got such a limited scope in terms of skill set that I feel like I can, every time I try and go further, I'm like, I can't go deeper on this one thing. So our thing is we don't help people make courses. We don't help people drive traffic. We just help with email marketing and funnels. Once you've got traffic and you've got courses and you've proven that those people will buy those courses. So if someone is listening to this and they're like, yeah, but I haven't got there yet, then I know they find this stuff useful, but they could actually come and like check out some of the ways that you help people. So could you kind of do a little pitch for the way that you do that?
I appreciate that. That's so great that you got so niched down. I help people with everything. And I think the reason is because when I got started, I focused on making the course, but then it didn't sell because I wasn't any good at marketing and sales. And it just took me about 3 years to figure out all the pieces I needed. And so I had so much struggle, but the payoff was so great from all that struggle. Like I want to help people set up all those pieces because of my story, right? So that's I think that's kind of wise based on the background. So we have a beginner program called Genesis, right? From the beginning. It's very clever. Genesis courses is that program.
If you have to tell people it's clever, then it might be too clever.
That was rude, John. That was rude. Calling me out like that. Anyway, yeah, from the beginning. So yeah, we there's no prerequisites. I mean, we have people signing up for Genesis that don't even have their topic yet. Like they're all over the place with their topic.
Wow.
So we help them hone that in. Now that's more rare. People normally know what their topic is. But yeah, it's a beginner program. It's for anybody that's not making sales, right? So we do have people joining us that have even created their course, but it's not selling. So that might mean their course is terrible and we need to redo their course, or they just don't have the marketing and sales and systems in place yet. So appreciate you. Let me talk about that for a little bit. But yeah, we do help beginners. Genesis courses. You can find more information about that at our website, theonlinecourseguy.com.
Nice. And if you want to listen to the podcast, then it's the Online Course Show. You can just search for the Online Course Show on, Spotify or whatever podcast app you're using, or you can go to theonlinecourseguy.com/podcasts. And I've been on a couple of weeks ago now. I had the chance to go and talk to Jacques about what I've been up to and kind of what's working for us and our clients. But there's some great episodes on there with a lot of other people that I kind of had a little scoot through, and I recognize some names, which is great to kind of see. Quite a lot of my friends have been on as well, and some of the people who work with us too. So definitely go check that out, and go check out theonlinecourseguy.com if you want help from Jacques with getting started. Anything else you want to link to or let people know about?
No, John, I mean, these are podcast listeners listening to this, and I'm sure we have some crossover. I'm sure some people listen to both of our podcasts because we're probably the top two in the space, if I had to guess. But if somebody wasn't familiar with me and my podcast, like don't leave John's podcast, come over to mine. Like consume all of John's, right? Only come over to mine if you're like, gosh, I've listened to all of John's, I need more. Then you can come over to mine because it's the same.
Instead of listening to mine twice, come and listen to yours.
Yeah, exactly.
Yours as well.
Yeah, don't listen to John's twice. Listen to it once and then come over to my podcast. But it's Yours is obviously a fantastic podcast. And then the latest one you've been on mine was, like you said, just a couple of weeks ago, episode 267. So if somebody isn't familiar and they want to dip their toe in the water with my podcast, that'd be a great one to start with because they're familiar with you.
Mhm.
And it's so different. Like you're normally the one interviewing. You're interviewing me right now,
Mm.
even though I'm going on all these tangents for you. But I'm interviewing you, right? So if people only hear you interviewing other people and they want to learn more about you and hear you being interviewed, that'd be a great place to go, is episode 267, and hear me tee you up for questions and see how you answer those.
Perfect. Jacques, thanks so much for coming on, man. Really, really appreciate your time. Been a great episode. And if you're listening, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. If you have any suggestions of anybody else you would like us to interview on the podcast, please drop me an email, john@datadrivenmarketing.co, or go check out previous episodes with Jacques or the online course show. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Jacques.
Thank you, John.